Herald Torment, Corsair Crewfist, Brain Maggot, with a couple of Mana Accelerants and Elvish Mystic and Sylvan Caryatid thrown in.
It's a pretty sweet deck. I think this is the kind of deck that, you know, it's okay right now, but once we have the rotation of Return of Ravnica out and the new set come in, I think that's probably where this will be one of the top decks.
The most punishing thing for this deck in my mind is Sphinx's Revelation. So that rotating out is a big deal.
Yeah. We're underway here in round number 4 at Overgrown Tomb to start here for Batinich. Hatch, maybe a discard spell, just a Rakdos Cackler, so going to get the beatdowns underway pretty early.
We talked about a couple times how Golgari Charm is really rough on decks like this. Doomweight Giant, for the same reason, very good against these beatdown decks.
Mana Bloom is a little bit of acceleration here for Batinich. Hatch, see what he has on the second turn of the game. As you did mention, Doomweight Giant, very hard card, for these decks to beat.
3 copies of Mana Bloom here. This acts as both acceleration and a way to kind of go off with some of your creatures like Eidolon and Doomweight Giant if the game drags out.
Mutavault will be the land that Hatch does play after his attack for 2. We'll see if he has a 2-drop to play. Spiteful Return would probably be ideal in this situation.
Greg maybe trying to wrap his head exactly around what he's playing against. The Mana Bloom, an indicator of what's up, though.
Yeah, if you are familiar, it is a dead giveaway. Mana Bloom will be used to cast the Eidolon of Blossoms here. And back to Batinich we go. And of course, that Mana Bloom will go back to the grip here. And just a little bit on his upkeep is when it will be returned.
You can see already the combo here with Eidolon.
It is a powerful one.
Yeah.
Eidolon, really the card that brought this card to the forefront. Doomweight Giant's not bad, of course, but Eidolon of Blossom is very powerful.
Doomweight Giant's very good against certain opponents, not very good against others. Eidolon is good against nearly every opponent.
Hatch going to go reaching for some mana here. Be a good time to cast a Lifebane Zombie if he has one. And it looks like he does. So we'll take a look at Batinich's hand. You've got an Eidolon that's going to bite the dust. A couple other cards hanging out here, Herald Torment among others. So you see the hand there, 2 lands, 2 Herald Torments. Hatch is going to get in the red zone here. Batinich very quick to block there with the Eidolon. A little surprised by that.
Felt like maybe he could get one more turn out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, you untap, you cast your Mana Bloom for 0, draw a card. You cast a Herald, now you have a blocker.
It looks like we're going to draw a card here, however, with the 3rd Eidolon of the game. Was top deck there for Batinich. So Hatch is going to take a draw, see if he can work his way through the 2/2 Cantripper. Going to start his turn by playing a Swamp. One of the things that's difficult about the mono black aggro deck is if it does flood out a little bit, only has Mutavault to really mitigate that.
You have a couple of bestow creatures too that help out in some spots, but you are susceptible to flooding out.
And you do play more lands than the Boss Sly-esque deck, for example. Hatch playing 22, where Boss Sly only plays 17.
And in the build of mono black aggro I was working on, I was actually playing 23 lands. It's much land heavier. But you can rationalize it because of Herald of Torment and Spiteful Return and so on.
Hatch looks like he's going to fire from Mutavault. Looks like it may be time to get in the old red zone here in just a moment. Got plenty of lands to work with. You saw a couple swamps in his hand. You see it. Greg considering his options, and it looks like maybe everyone's going to come in, and they will. So a quick block on the Mutavault. 5 damage will come across. Batinich going to go down to 11. And Hatch will just pass the turn back. Batinich will take a draw. It's just a land. So his hand right now is lands, 2 copies of Herald of Torment, and a Mana Bloom. So there is your Herald. This is your Bloom. And pass the turn back. Let's see if Hatch has a removal spell here. It looks like he does on the end of turn. Got a couple removal spells this weekend. 4 copies of Hero's Downfall, 2 Ultimate Price. And there is one of those to take down the Herald.
And Ultimate Price, definitely the removal spell for that spot.
Yeah, we've seen some versions of Mono Black run Bio Blight to make sure they're a little bit better against Pack Rat, but going with Ultimate Price this weekend. See, Hatch right now has a copy of Mogus's Marauder in his hand. That's the card that really drew me to this deck.
It is so good. That card's so powerful. Much better than any analog that red or white really has in that mana slot. 2/2 haste for 3 isn't even that bad in your beatdown decks, and most of the decks that are trying to beat you are trying to do it through blocking. Even the control decks eventually try to stabilize with Elspeth, so Mogus's Marauder is just excellent in this deck.
Looks like Hatch is considering if he wants to play Mogus's Marauder pre-combat for 2 additional damage, or if he wants to use it for the Falter effect. Looks like he wants to save it for a little later, so he's going to put the opponent here in Batinich down to 6. And the follow-up here looks to be another copy of Lifebane Zombie. He's going to see a hand here of Lance and Herald Torment and hope his opponent does not draw a Doomweight Giant. It's going to happen there. You saw Batinich add a mana on the end step. Make sure he can return his Mana Bloom. It looks like maybe a Thoughtseize was the draw. What I do not believe that was a Doomwake Giant.
Yeah, and the reason to activate the Mana Bloom there is so if he draws Doomwake Giant, he can cast it, and then the Mana Bloom, get 2 Constellation triggers in the same turn, and wipe Hatch's board.
Another removal spell here, perhaps, or it will just be a Thrill Kill Assassin. Hatch going to follow this up with Mogus Marauder. Mogus Marauder, oddly enough, does grant haste to the creatures, so it's going to be a lethal attack, and Greg Hatch is going to win game number 1 here over Andrew Batinich. Mono Black aggro up a game over Green Black Constellation.
Pretty straightforward in there for Greg, although if Andrew ever found Doomwake Giant, I don't think Greg can catch up.
And that's the card to be scared of. And that's the card that Hatch really can't do anything about. He does have some discard spells that he has access to board in, and we'll talk about those in just a moment, but we'll start with Batinich and what he can find to help him.
A Hero's Downfall, an Elixir of Immortality, 2 Life Banes, 3 Golgari Charms, 2 Dark Betrayals, 4 Mistcar Hydras, and 2 Whip of Erebos. He has a lot to bring in the table in this matchup. 3 Golgari Charm, one of the better cards you can have against Mono Black aggro in the entire format, and Dark Betrayal not that far behind. I don't know if Elixir is just something that he wants as a life gain spell in certain matchups, or if it's part of some other plan if the game goes long, depending on which one that one might come as well. And I do not think that I would bring in Whip of Erebos here because I think it's not very good in the games that he's likely to be losing in, but that's another option here as well.
Take a look at Hatch's sideboard. He does have 4 copies of Duress, 3 Festering Newt, 2 Bubbling Cauldron. Those are not misprints. To go along with 2 Doomblade, 2 Erebos God of the Dead, and 2 copies of Devour Flesh. Let's see. Devour Flesh seems like it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, Andrew's got a couple of really powerful threats and not a ton of creatures, at least based on what you saw game 1 there.
Not sure how much do you like to rest it all here?
No, I mean, it's a Constellation deck. You have to imagine most of it is just based around the creature enchantments.
Yeah. And then the rest of the cards here, I mean, Doomblade is kind of whatever. It doesn't solve the biggest problem.
This feels very close to present the same 60 to me.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
Maybe there's small changes. Maybe he wants the Doomblades or the Devour Flushes, but I don't think he's going to change very much.
I don't think you're excited about anything in your sideboard, that's for sure.
No.
So both players will shuffle up here. We'll be underway for game number 2 in just a little bit, but if you are just joining us, Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan, Star City Games Open Series here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Round 4 of 10 is where we're at in our standard open. Pretty nice turnout this weekend. Right around 430 players, so Vegas representing.
Yeah, 10 rounds for Vegas is very good.
Yeah.
Not that, geographically centered relative to other major population centers to drive from San Diego or from Phoenix or from LA, but not the easiest place to get to.
I do know the players love when we do come out to this thing. They do come out as best they can, and of course, there are plenty of things to do in the city in case the tournament doesn't go so well.
As indicated by Osip Levidovich's one drop.
I don't even know if he's going to show up for tomorrow either.
I don't think so. I think he wasn't even planning on playing the Legacy portion regardless.
Some quick battling, playing Boss Sly. Says, all right, that's good enough for me. I've seen enough.
Yeah.
Let's get out and enjoy what Vegas has to offer.
You can just tell the look of disgust on his face the entire time that he was playing on camera,
Well, maybe, as you said, it's not the kind of deck he normally plays.
No.
And I think he quickly realized why. There's a certain kind of player who plays the Boss Sly-esque deck.
Yeah. The Pro Tour 1 was with Astral Slide.
Yeah.
The man likes to have options.
Yes. Pretty good when he has them. That's for sure. He has won a Grand Prix with Affinity before, but that's when Affinity was completely broken.
Yeah, that was a different thing. I mean, Osip thought that the deck was so good that if you weren't playing it, you just weren't trying.
Well, he was not wrong.
Right.
Because that's exactly what it was.
And he's expanded his horizons a little bit, as he's gotten older, cares a little less about, grinding in tournaments. He'll be down a little more often than he used to.
Get beaten down, that's a way of life right there.
Yeah.
Love a good attack step. Hatch is obviously using that to his advantage this weekend. Mono Black aggro, get in the red zone.
It's pretty interesting, too. Greg is known for some pretty fancy brews in Legacy.
I can only hope for tomorrow.
Don't really see play these straightforward linear aggro decks very often. Although I guess his invitational second place was with Mono Blue Devotion.
Yeah, and Merfolk in the Legacy portion of the tournament. But we've seen him dabble in some really fun things. When we were in Los Angeles earlier this year, the old Sky Hussar came out to play, along with Martyr of Frost.
And that deck, I mean, we hung out with him last week, and he has all sorts of blue tempo decks built.
Yeah,
you blow your mind.
You think you know, but you have no idea
Yeah.
how that mind works.
Master of Waves, Legacy's Allure, then you got a stew going.
Yeah, that's true.
To quote the man as a conversation we had last week.
If you think you know a lot about Tidal Warrior, you don't know anything.
You don't know anything.
No. The number of lands that he turned into an island, quite a few.
Reef Shaman.
I've heard of it. These are just a few of the cards that Greg Hatch has a lot of copies of
Yeah.
at his disposal. He's a big fan of brewing in both formats. Always looking for a creative way to build a deck and have some fun in a tournament. And it was a lot of fun watching him activate Sky Hussar when we were in Los Angeles a couple months ago. Crazy to think that was 3 months ago.
Really? That was 3 months ago?
Yeah, it was in March. That's absurd.
That is absurd.
Both players going to take a look at the opener here. Batinich will be on the play after being aggroed out of game number 1. You see a Mana Bloom over there, among other options. Hatch is going to send his hand back, so it's time for a mulligan for Mono Black aggro.
And Hatch is one of the most compelling people to talk to about Magic because after matches, he's almost never cares about whether or not he won or lost or if he felt he got unlucky. Just as interested in the process. When you hear about him, when he's talking about decks that he likes to brew or whatever, he basically knows Magic's entire card pool. So he can go really deep with the types of decks that he builds. And he's not afraid to try things. He's not beholden to, playing Magic conventionally, which I really like.
Oh, he's outside the box. And it makes fun. It's a lot of fun for the conversations that we can have. Just reminds me of cards that I sometimes don't even remember exist.
Yeah, I cannot tell you the text box on half the cards that he brings up in his Legacy decks.
These players are underway in just a moment, but of course we do want to talk about our newest addition to the Creature Collection series. Available now. June 13th is in the past.
Yes.
So Acorn Mystic is upon us. Legacy Open. You join, you get 2. And of course you do see the deck box, the dice bag, the sleeves, and of course the play mat. I know a lot of people were excited about this, so just a brand new addition.
A Stoneforge Mystic can go and get anything that it can imagine. That squirrel just wants an acorn.
That's it. It's a very simple life that squirrel leads. Here's a Thoughtseize. Bunch of lands on the Mana Bloom and a Courser of Crewfix. Best card in the hand is Courser, I think.
Well, it depends how long you think the game's going. Mana Bloom gives a lot of upside to Andrew's draw steps. I mean, if he finds an Eidolon or a Doomwake Giant, that Mana Bloom's worth a lot.
So the Batinich draws here. It's a copy of Elixir of Immortality. You mentioned this one. Feels a little bit out of place, but that 5 life might be important.
Yeah, I didn't know if this was part of some plan if he's going really long in a game, or if he's just bringing it in as a gain 5. It appears that it's, in this matchup at least, coming in for the latter.
Hatch going to play a Mutavault, follows up with a Spiteful Return. A very powerful card in this deck. Now this is going to be an Elvish Mystic. We'll follow that up with an Elixir. Here roll Batinich. Hatch can untap, take a draw here. Ideally would like a removal spell to get that Elvish Mystic out of the way, but maybe interested in just trading with it. And we're going to see just a Mutavault here.
Not even willing to trade.
Yeah. The follow-up here is a Rakdos Cackler will be unleashed, so a good sequence of events there for Hatch. As Batinich is going to untap. He's looking for something to do with the mana, because he's got plenty of it, and Temple of Malady will help find something, you have to imagine.
Yeah, right now he's just looking for one of his 7 Haymakers. Only 3 Doomwake Giants in the list, so that's what he's drawing to.
He very quickly kept that card on top of his deck. You see Hatch is going to bestow a Gnarled Scarhide on the Spiteful Return. A trigger is going to deal 2, and a bunch of damage is going to come across here. No good blocks available for Batinich.
And this is one of the spots where you can see why Mono Black Aggro is able to afford playing with more lands. Because you have the Bestow creatures to help drag you along in spots like this.
Time for an Nylon of Blossoms for Batinich. That's going to come into play. Trigger, draw a card. Looks like, not quite sure the card he drew this turn was.
I believe it was Dark Betrayal.
Yeah, that's what I thought that was.
And this Eidolon very threatening in the face of that Mana Bloom.
Yeah, one thing that Batinich has to do, of course, is he wants to make sure he gets the most out of the Mana Bloom here, however. Had the opportunity to return it last time, chose not to. Here's a Hero's Downfall. Get this out of the way. Going to fire Mutavault. Hatch going to get in the red zone here. Dark Betrayal is going to take care of Spiteful Return before it attacks. However, Gnarled Scarhide can attack because it is not summoning sick due to Bestow.
Yeah, it's one of the odd features of Bestow. A creature that's been bestowed, a bestowed creature. If the initial creature is destroyed, the bestowed creature is considered to be a creature that was in play at the start of the turn and can attack as normal.
So that'll trade with the Elvish Mystic. You saw Batinich activate the Elixir, so he will gain 5 life and shuffle his graveyard back in. Hatch doing pretty well, but Batinich not all that low and does have some big draws available.
Yeah, exactly. This is a replica of what we saw in the first game, where he's drawing to a couple large draws, Eidolon counts, and especially Doomweight Giant can give Andrew a big edge, but he has very little time to find it.
So again, Batinich with just lands in hand. Manaloon's going to come back. Let's see what he adds to the grip. It's a copy of Whip of Erebos, a little slow.
Not the best combo with Elixir of Immortality also.
I'm inclined to agree. And now there's a Mana Bloom and simply going to pass the turn back over to Hatch Will Batinich. Hatch at the ready to draw a card. Looking to try to close this game out just as fast as he can. That's a Swamp. Looks like this may be a Spiteful Return that's going to be bestowed, and it is. You fire from Mutavault, you've got a pretty sizable attack here for 6.
Got Stu going.
Yeah. Let's make it 2, 4, 5, 6, excuse me, 7. So we're on a 2-turner. Batinich is going to have to draw a real card here. You saw the Mana Loom get added back to his hand. He's going to reorganize some mana. In comes the Elvish Mystic, going to gain Batinich a life, puts him up to 6. There's the Sylvan Caryatid, so it looks like he may be able to play another turn here.
Yeah, he does survive as the board is currently constituted.
Hatch going to fire from Mutavault. Maybe, maybe not. You have to imagine if it was Herald of Torment was a draw, it would be lethal, so we know it's not that. And he's just trying to figure out exactly what he's supposed to do here with his attackers and if he wants to deploy any more threats.
If he drew a Bestow creature, he can force a chump block no matter what.
He's just going to have an attacker. There's a trigger, and that's going to be a block. So Caryatid's going to bite the dust. Hatch looks like he has a follow-up play. He's going to play a copy of Erebos. So he has more interest in drawing a card than anything else. But the fact that lifelink is shut off now is actually probably pretty important in this game.
Definitely in the face of that Whip of Erebos, yeah.
Batinich going to show a Swamp and extend the hand. So Greg Hatch is going to win this match over Andrew Batinich. 2-0. Mono Black Aggro getting the job done over Green Black Constellation. Just unable to find a Doomwake Giant.
Yeah.